My next big project is to install a high top on the van, but before I do that I have to address some issues, primarily the gutter rails. Over time the sealant on the gutter rail starts to fail and then they rust and leak, and the high top is going to sit in that gutter rail, and so I need to get it dealt with before putting the high top on. I'll show you what it looks like. So here's the gutter rails. As you can see, I've got some rust, and if we step up top you can see here where the sealant inside is starting to lift and fail. We're getting rust underneath, and what it's causing is actually some leaking into the van. So I need to get this dealt with, and the way I'm going to do that is by prying and chipping out all of this old sealant. I'm going to go the whole way around the van, and then I'm going to sand it down, wire brush it, prime it, and fill it with new sealant. So when we're done, it should be good as new. Oh, it's pretty ugly under there. I've got the rear gutter rail mostly cleaned out. I had initially thought maybe I could just come in and patch a small section where it was lifted, but this whole rail was a mess with rust and crud, and the old stuff just lifted right out. Where it wasn't rusted, I had to chip the old sealant away. It took me the better part of an afternoon. Alright, making pretty good progress on the gutter rails. The move was for sure to just get up on top of the van. It put me in a really good position to chip away at these rails. I'll show you. So here's the driver's side, and as you can see, even where the rail looked good, there was a good bit of rust in there. I'm really glad I'm doing this now. There we have it. Bulk of the sealant removed from the gutter rail. And now I'm just going to hit it with an angle grinder and clean it all up. We've got this 4-inch wire wheel, and I'm going to use that to clean out the gutter. I've got the gutter rails all cleaned out. I used an angle grinder and sandpaper and got all the old sealant out. And now it's time to just clean them up really good, and then I'm gonna seal them up and I'll show you what I've got. So I've got the gutter rails pretty much cleaned out. They are pretty wet and dirty, and the weather is not awesome for this today, so I've got a tarp strung up. I'm going to cover this and get them dried out and then get them filled. So I thought I had things pretty well cleared out, but it turns out there is still a lot of crud in here, and I've been getting it out with a hammer and this pick, and it's working pretty well. But I'm clearing it out and getting it down to where I have actually no traces of the gutter sealant left. So I've got to go around the van and do a bunch of work. Alright, making some progress on the rain gutters. I got things all cleared out. There's a little rust, but all the old adhesive is gone. So I think we're in good shape. Just want to give you a quick look at the tools that I used. Mostly, I was using this pick. I broke the small tip off of it, so I had to sharpen it down again. I was tapping that with a hammer, a little bit of knife, wire brush, hair dryer to dry things out, and I was using the angle grinder earlier, but I burned the motor out on it, so much for that. I'm waiting on some sealant to arrive still, so I'm going to treat the rusted areas with rust cutter. I'm just going to brush this on to the rusty areas of the gutter rail and let it sit for a day or two, and that should clean up the remaining rust so that I can prime it and seal it. Alright folks, I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the products I'm going to be using for this project. So this stuff is masking film. It's got tape on one end and then it unrolls. So I'll be using this to mask off the rest of the van when I go to prime the bare metal on the gutter rails. I need to prime the bare metal of the gutter rails, and I'm going to use Raptor 2K primer. The product that I'm using on top requires a 2-part primer, and this stuff is pretty good. I had a can fail on me in the past, so I'm hoping this one works a little bit better. It's pretty straightforward to use. You shake it up, put that red cap in the bottom and punch that button, and then mix it up real good. So I'll be using that for the gutter rails. Once they're primed, I'm going to fill them with 3M self-leveling seam sealer. This is an epoxy-based product, and I've looked at all of the various options. It sounds like 2-part products are the better option, and I want this to be very durable long term. I don't want to ever have to take the top off. So I'm going with a 2-part epoxy based. There is a urethane based as well. I'm not sure what the advantages are there, but this was generally recognized as the best option. To dispense this, you need a special dispensing gun with 2 plungers. So I picked one of those up. This stuff is almost $50 a tube. So I don't want to use it to fill the gutter rails. I just want to seal the gutter rails with the 3M leveling sealant, and then I'll use this Dicor lap sealant to fill the gutter rails. This stuff is 12 bucks a tube. It's a rubbery EPDM self-leveling lap sealant, and it'll allow me to fill up those gutter rails with a durable, long-lasting top coating much more cheaply than using the 3M product. It's been 2 days since I brushed on that rust cutter, and it has done an excellent job of converting the rust. So now it's time to get things cleaned up. Okay, I've been waiting for the weather for a couple days, and now we've got some good sunshine here. The last day of December in Seattle, and it's pretty warm and sunny. So the plan now is to fix up a couple of these little holes where I went through the metal. So I'm going to file those down, wire brush the whole gutter rail, and then degrease and mask and prime. The gutter rails are cleaned and wire brushed. Now I'm just going to run some degreaser over to make sure they're clean before priming. That's why we're cleaning them. It's looking a lot better than it was. I've got the gutters all cleaned and degreased, and they are ready to be sprayed with primer. I'm just going to mask off the rest of the van, and then we'll get it done. Alright, I've got things all masked off, ready to spray. So I just finished spraying 1 can, gave me 2 coats all around, and I'm pretty happy with how it's looking. Now I just need to wait for it to dry, then I'm going to jack the van up and start with the seam sealer. So just checking the instructions on this self-leveling seam sealer, and it sounds like I've got the right product. It says specifically formulated to seal sheet metal joints and roof ditches, so that's perfect. And in terms of prep, I just need to let that primer flash off, and then basically dispense a little bit of this stuff just until it's both coming out, and then start pushing it out the mixing tube. All right, I'm just gonna take this around the whole van. So one tube made it halfway around the van. I'll probably end up using 2, maybe 3. All finished with the seam sealing. I ended up using 3 tubes of 3M self-leveling seam sealer, 200 milliliters each, and that gave me really good thorough coverage the whole way around. I had intended to be as neat as possible, but it's really difficult to get this stuff to flow smoothly, and it does self-level to some extent, but it's not perfect. I do feel like I got a good seal the whole way around. The finished surface is just a little wavy. So I'm gonna fill the top with Dicor. This needs to cure for at least 15 minutes, and then I can overcoat that. So I'm gonna leave it go for a little while longer, less than 24 hours. So I'll finish it this afternoon. So here we go. It took 2 10-ounce tubes of Dicor to fill in the gutter rails. I wasn't too careful with the edges, as the interior will be covered by the high top and adhesives, and I'll be lightly sanding and repainting the exterior of the gutter rail as well. But the inside is smooth and I'm happy with the results. No rust, a strong sealed seam, and fully filled with a flexible UV stable covering. This should last for years to come. Next up, I'll be preparing the high top for the top swap and then actually installing the new top on my van, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.